and welcome to yet another episode of Nights Around the Fire. I'm David Thompson. This is Sue Taylor. We're back with another video. I hope you enjoyed our Christmas KRAMPUS video. If you haven't seen it yet, please go over to our channel and watch it. But today we're going to stay on the Christmas theme, aren't we, Sue?
We are. We're going to bring out Christmas a little longer.
We're going to be talking about one of the best ghost stories probably ever written for Christmas, and that is Charles Dickens'
A Christmas Carol.
Right. So, Sue, I enjoyed all the videos that I've watched on the Christmas Carol. Some of the older ones were a little more in scene for me, spooky, and I enjoyed the characters, and there's been a lot of remakes. I think Hallmark even has done some modern-day remakes of being Scrooged.
Yeah.
But what exactly are we going to talk about today? What about Dickens what the Dickens about ghosts in the Victorian age? How's that?
That's good. I like that. So Dickens wrote A Christmas Carol specifically to be a ghost story. And I forgot my book when we are recording today, but if you look at the cover page of the A Christmas Carol book, it says right there a ghost story. So he did not intend to tell you some cute, fuzzy holiday story with frogs dressed up as Bob Cratchit and singing pigs and bunnies and all that. He intended to tell a ghost story, and some of the versions of A Christmas Carol do get a little creepy.
And indeed, it was a ghost story. Of course, being on this podcast, we talk a lot about ghosts. So what is it about the Victorians, Sue, that were so fascinated with ghosts?
So there were a lot of things. One, you have to think about what the life expectancy was. And if you think about in A Christmas Carol, one of the biggest plot aspects of the A Christmas Carol was the health and potential death of Tiny Tim. Yep. And that was very common in Victorian era. Children died very regularly. If a family had 10 children, only half of them might actually live, or fewer, to see their teenage years or adulthood.
Yes, I know that that's happened in America. We have a lot of stories of even more wealthy people who've lost half their family in the early 1900s, late 1890s. And of course, there are various numbers of diseases, right, that took them.
Yep. And you think about the conditions, like the living conditions, and even they talk about it in A Christmas Carol, like the debtors' prisons and the lack of food and all of that. So Dickens really set the scene for the whole, like what the time was like for people. And you think about the fact that Victorians were very into the spirit side, and we think about Ouija boards with a different kind of culture now, but they didn't, because they were so accustomed to losing their husbands, their wives, their sons, their daughters, that Ouija board and those spirits were the way that they communicated with them.
Wow. Yeah. I know growing up, when I thought of ghosts, I thought of Victorian ghosts in that attire. I think in any home you went in that they said was haunted, they saw a person in Victorian attire.
What's the joke that's out there now that it's always a ghost that's in Victorian attire? It's never a teenage girl in a juicy sweatsuit screaming, "It's Britney, bitch!"
Right. That's true. That's how we growing up learned about ghosts. We thought about it, and all the movies that were period ending in probably 1950s all had Victorian ghosts. Of course, most of the homes in America were really Victorian homes when it came right down to it, older homes, and we really just kind of fantasize about these ghosts being dressed in that attire.
Yeah, and that's probably all, because I remember growing up, we watched the A Mickey's Christmas Carol, the cartoon version, with Scrooge McDuck and Mickey Mouse as the characters. Like, that was just something that was instilled in us as kids. Was one of the things at Christmas was you watched A Christmas Carol. And I know there are certain versions, like the local theater, Little Lake, used to do a production that the appearance of Jacob Marley would freak me out when I was little. And there are a lot of, like, I know a lot of kids who were scared of it, of the Muppet Christmas Carol, of the new one that they did that Jim Carrey voiced, Ebenezer Scrooge. Like, it can be a very scary movie.
Well, it's about ghosts.
Yeah, that's right. Dickens accomplished his goal of telling a ghost story.
And it's never died down. It's always reinvented every year.
Yep.
Okay, so let's maybe break down, Sue, the ghosts in Charles Dickens' classic.
So let me ask you a question. You might think this is a trick question. How many ghosts was Scrooge visited by?
4.
Thank you. Thank you. The correct answer is 4. There will be no accepting any other answers. If you want to comment why you think it's only 3, we will comment back explaining why that is incorrect.
Thank you,
Yes.
Sue. True, there were 4 ghosts.
There were 4 ghosts. The first ghost to visit Ebenezer Scrooge was the ghost of his partner, Mr. Jacob Marley. And Marley had been dead 7 years the night that he came to visit Scrooge. And remember, when Scrooge gets home from the counting house, he sees Marley's face appear in his doorknocker.
Right.
In his door knocker, rather.
Right.
And so that's kind of the first thing that makes Scrooge go, And then he's upstairs in his rooms and he hears chains dragging. And it's the spirit of Jacob Marley coming in, and Scrooge asks about those chains, and Marley says, well, this is what my chain looked like 7 years ago when I died. Yours has had 7 extra years to grow. These are the chains I forged in life, Ebenezer.
Very fitting. This is the quintessential, you're going to pay for your sins after death.
Yeah.
And in his case, he was a miser, cheap. They were mean. They were part of sending people away to the poorhouse, right? Everything you can think about in Victorian England that happened bad, they would have been a part of. Marley and Scrooge.
Yes. And in some versions of the movie, or in the play, the book, whichever you look at, and we'll jump ahead, the next ghost that comes to visit Scrooge is the ghost of Christmas past. So this spirit takes Scrooge back in time and shows him his childhood, shows him when he used to party with Mr. Fezziwig when he was doing his internship. And some of them show where Scrooge shifts dramatically after, he falls in love and he starts turning into the cheap miser that he is today. And he gets, in some versions, he evicts Mr. Fezziwig and, takes everything and just gets so consumed with money and not being poor, and he's got to have this money. There's
a spirit, I believe, and that's kind of the point here. There's a spirit of this, and I think we see that today, don't we, of how we sort of fall in love with the billionaires and the richest people. We think they have it all. And it wasn't much different back then, because you either had a lot of money or you had none.
And if you had money, that could guarantee your survival, basically. Like, you could afford doctors. You could afford food. You could afford housing. You were not going to necessarily end up in a debtor's prison. You could afford to educate your children so that they could get married into good marriages and continue the family on and go into wealth and not have to worry about ending up on the streets.
And this offsets the whole story about Tiny Tim. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. They were a very poor family.
Yes.
He worked for Scrooge in the counting house.
Yes.
And the boy was ill.
Yes. And they had the Cratchits. I'm not sure how many children they had. They had at least 4 or 5, which was common in that time.
Yes.
They had a lot of kids in that time.
Yeah. And I think he had a father that worked for a very rich man.
But still, Scrooge was so cheap. He wasn't paying Mr. Cratchit very well, wasn't paying Bob Cratchit very well. And we don't really know if he knew before that Christmas Eve when the spirits visited him, if Scrooge knew about Tiny Tim. I think he did, because I think there's a couple of versions, depending on which one you read, depending on which one you see, where Scrooge says to Cratchit, like, you're poor and you have all these kids or something like that. You keep bringing kids into the world and you can't afford to feed them.
And I think the ghosts mention that as well.
Yes.
That while you have all this money, and of course, let's be honest, Scrooge didn't live like a king, did he?
No, he didn't. He was not riding around in a fancy carriage drawn by purebred horses. He was still technically living in the rooms that had belonged to Marley.
Yeah.
And he didn't put coal in the fireplace. He didn't light up most of the rooms. He ate his leftover porridge and gruel,
whatever that is.
Lit one candle as opposed to everything else.
Right. So this man lived not a great life in a sense of enjoying his wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we had the Ghost of Christmas Past, and let's talk a little bit about that, because in a way, if you think about going back into your past, seeing friends that you loved, family members you loved, how painful would that be?
Yeah. And like seeing a time where you were genuinely happy and you weren't worried about, I have to make more money and I have to do this thing and I have to do the other thing. And one of the lessons that you learn from the Dickens novel is learn from your past. Remember what got you to where you are today. You don't have to be that person. You can be a better person. You can be that same person. You don't forget whoever you are today. Just don't forget where you came from.
Right. I thought back when we talked about doing this video. I thought back to the book Our Town, a famous book. You probably read it in high school, about a person who dies and the ghosts are up on the hill watching their town. Mm-hmm. And one of the people wanted to go back, and they said, "You don't want to do that." They warned her. She went back, and of course it was heartbreaking. She couldn't change anything.
No. Well, and then you think about the It's a Wonderful Life, where he sees his life if he had never existed. And they did, on the TV show Ghosts, a couple weeks ago, they did a Christmas Carol with Carol, the ghost of Pete's wife. And they, what would it be like if, none of this has happened? Like, can you change things? And in most cases, we can't. You and I cannot change things.
We can't
change things.
That's why it's so important to do the right thing today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so Ghost of Christmas Past. What was the next ghost on the list?
Next ghost was a Ghost of Christmas Present.
Wow.
Yeah. And so in some tellings, it's in the Dickens novel, but some movies will cut him out. Scrooge had a sister that had a son that had his nephew Fred. So Scrooge goes to visit his nephew Fred, who has tried to have a relationship with him, and Scrooge has pushed him away. And then he goes to see the Cratchit family, and he sees that Tiny Tim is sick and he might die, and he sees how happy the Cratchits are, despite the fact that they don't really have anything. And he's just totally perplexed by this. Like, how are you guys so poor, yet you're happy? That doesn't make any sense at all.
Again, fast forward to today, people don't understand why people are poor. And it's the same conditions. He happened to work. Cratchit worked for a rich man, but the rich man didn't pay him fair wages.
Yeah.
So how would he not be poor?
Yeah.
We seem to make this statement on and on and on that why are people poor? Why can't you go do this, do that? If you're not making any money.
And if you have a family and one of those family members is a sick child and you're spending money on doctor's bills or medicine or something like that, and your employer's not paying you, you're paying you what Scrooge is.
You're poor. And there was no social safety net back in Victorian England, was there?
No, there definitely was not.
Well, they did. They had prison.
And poorhouses. And poorhouses, yes. Which is what Scrooge says on Christmas Eve with the two men who are soliciting for charities.
Yeah.
When he comes, he says, "Aren't there any prisons or any poorhouses?" And the one says to him, well, yeah, but some would rather die than go there. And Scrooge says, well, they better do it than decrease the surplus population.
That's harsh.
Yeah. Scrooge wasn't a nice guy right away.
Listen, people, this book is flat out harsh.
It is. It's a very dark book, and we were talking about that. This is the classic Nights Around the Fire kind of ghost story to be told, because that's how Dickens meant for it to be told. And I believe it was released on December the 19th, so very close to Christmas, and it sold out. So you think about Victorians ran out and bought this book. They loved this book.
They love ghosts, right?
They did. They loved their ghost.
I think when you go back to the 1890s, 1880s, spirituality was also a big thing, especially the late 1890s.
Yes.
Like you mentioned about Ouija boards, how they looked at ghosts were much differently than we do today, because they had a lot more skin in the game. They lost a lot of people early on, and they believed they came back in the form of spirits, and of course a lot of people took advantage of that.
They did, and that's why you had a lot of mediums, and sometimes you had good mediums and sometimes you had bad mediums who were just there to take money from people. Because sure, I can put you in touch with your dead wife or your dead son or your dead husband or whatever. Yeah, you can talk to him again. And we talked about this in our Titanic video. There was even a famous spiritualist who died on the Titanic, and that was mid 1910s, 1912.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot said about that back in England.
I'm sure, yeah.
But once again, the Victorians, I think, were probably in the last 200 years, were probably the biggest grouping of people that really, as a whole, followed ghosts.
Yeah, and I think probably what did it in, and this is just me making stuff up for the moment, is probably the Depression. Like when you got to like the World Wars and the Depressions, they kind of had to start putting away that mentality, because World War I, people were getting recruited off to war and fighting in overseas, and then the Depression hit and they were just trying to survive. So I think that's when they kind of had to get away from that attitude of, we don't have time to focus on the people who died, we're just trying to survive, which is kind of what the Ghost of Christmas Present was teaching.
Right,
learn from the past, but you got to live in the moment.
Right. And of course Scrooge had the ability to live differently in the moment.
He did.
And of course, he chose at that time not to. Now, before we move on, if you enjoy our content here on Nights Around the Fire and you want to hear more, please subscribe to our channel. Also, hit the like button. Make sure you hit that like button, or
squash that like button,
because that helps us with the algorithm. And please share the video with other people who you know would enjoy this content. We appreciate your support. Okay, so we talked about the Ghost of Christmas Past, the Ghost of Christmas Present. The most terrifying of all, though, is
the Ghost of Christmas Future, or the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come.
Yes, this terrified me more than any of them personally.
This is the scary one, because this is the one that kind of looks like the Grim Reaper minus the weapon, whatever.
The sigh.
The sigh, yes. Thank you. And he is the one, you never see his face. It was just, can you point dramatically? And that's how he shows Scrooge how to get through what the future will bring for him. And in some versions, they show like Scrooge's housekeeper going through his house, like taking his stuff and selling it and celebrating how he's gone, and businessmen that he worked with, and the businessmen are just, well, yeah, I'll go to his funeral. Oh, you will? You'll go to his funeral? Well, yeah, if they provide lunch. That sounds good. Like, then I'll go. It's not, nobody's mourning him. And then he goes to see the Cratchits, and Tiny Tim has died, and shows how devastated the family is. Well, when you think about it, they don't say this explicitly in the books or the movies, but if Tiny Tim has died and Scrooge has died, Bob Cratchit's probably lost his job at the same time.
Right.
Because somebody's probably going to take over the business and may or may not keep Cratchit on. So you think about it, a man with 3 or 4 other kids whose son just died is now probably out of a job. The Cratchits at that time were potentially in a big mess.
No unemployment for them, right?
Nope. No unemployment, no welfare, no support services, nothing.
So I know, of course, from the movies especially, you saw how Scrooge was shown his own death. And let's be honest, I'm sure even today, people always fear their own death. They never know when it is, and the older you get, the closer you get. And of course, like anyone else, Scrooge didn't want to die, right?
No.
So how terrifying would this be? You figured the first ghost set him up pretty good.
Yeah.
Things of the past, things you can't change, memories. And I think they said they're mere shadows.
These are the shadows of things that have been. They have no concept of us.
And of course, just hearing that gives you the chills. Then you come to the present and you see really how it really is. And then you go to the future and you see death.
And he goes to the Ghost of the Future with a pretty good attitude, because when the first ghost shows up, he's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go with you. And then he meets the ghost of Christmas Present. He was like, okay, let's go. Let's go. I've seen what happened before. Let's go. So he goes to the ghost of Christmas Future with, okay, I'm ready to see what you've got to show me. And then he shows him all these terrible things. And even Scrooge is like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah.
This is absolutely horrible.
I think it was in the movie Scrooged with Bill Murray that he's trying to hold back his coffin from going into the fire to, and he woke up from that, but again, terrifying in its own right. Were the Victorians afraid of death then? I mean, more so than we are today?
I don't know that they were as afraid of it as we are today, because they were so accustomed to it. Like, they knew at any time, like, if somebody came home coughing, that could be the end of thing. And you think of all of the morning rituals that they had. So they were just, a fever, that could be it. You could be gone in just a handful of days. Yeah, a cut could get infected and you could be gone in no time.
Cleanliness wasn't of God back then. They had no cleanliness, right?
Nope.
They had nothing. And, you go back to this time, and of course, we don't know what was in the mind of the author here. We don't really know if he had his own experience, that he had foresaw the future and said, this is terrifying, and decided to say, what if someone was visited by 3 ghosts? Because people think this is a redemptive story. It is, but is it really? Eventually, Scrooge would still die. He was old.
Yeah.
Right?
So we don't know exactly how much time Scrooge had after this. And they said that Tiny Tim doesn't die, and that Scrooge went on to keep Christmas in his heart and to respect it and everything. But they don't tell us exactly. We assume that Scrooge had one more Christmas after this, at least one more.
Right.
But again, he was an elderly man in the Victorian era. Like, anything could have felled him.
Right. And I think when you put yourself in that place, you wonder, you missed all those years of living properly. I guess even a year or two would make it seem like a new life to him.
Yeah, and they say in some versions, and I think it's in the book, that he says to Tiny Tim, Scrooge became a second father to him. And so it sounds like he did go on to be involved in the Cratchit family's life and really take that initiative, so that I guess when he passed, people probably genuinely mourned him, but they also probably said, you remember what he used to be like, right?
You never lose that, do you? So how does this play into ghost stories from that point forward, Sue?
So ghost stories were always a thing, and the Victorians, you think about it, they didn't have streaming services to pull up on Christmas Day when they were all hanging out with their family. So what did they do? They gathered around the fire where it was warm, and they told ghost stories. And there were some books that were specifically written to be read aloud at Christmas time. And they liked ghost stories. They liked ghosts. They liked hearing about them. So ghost stories were very popular at this time of year, which is not something that we really think about at Christmas time. We think of that as more of a Halloween thing.
Yeah.
But the Victorians said, no, we want ghosts all the year round.
So in a way, Dickens opened a pathway to, I think, for more authors to get into that genre, right?
Yeah, there are other ones. I cannot quote them offhand. They were in the book that I referenced last week, The Dead of Winter. She talks about some of them that she read, that there are some that were specifically written to be read aloud at Christmas. And so you think about what we do now to prep for Christmas. The Victorians were getting their ghost story books together to read around the Christmas fire.
Now, of course, here around the fire means a lot because we're nights around the fire. And
yep.
When I came up with that title, I thought about it and I stuck with it, but I went with what Sue just said, that people love storytelling. In fact, they still do.
Yeah.
You still go to plays, don't you? That still is a big thing, and people love to watch TV. They love somebody to tell them a story.
Yeah. I mean, that's what movies are. They're just movies. They're stories in the different forms and books. people still love that. Even those shows that you're streaming on whatever service, that's a story that you are sitting down to listen to.
As far as ghosts, we here have talked a little bit about ghosts. We had the ghosts of the Titanic.
Yep.
That's a nice video if you want to go watch that video. We had, of course, legendary creatures we've dealt with. Krampus, we just dealt with. Mothman. There's plenty. But ghosts hold a special place in, I think, everyone's heart because ghosts are uniquely human, right?
They are.
It's based off of the human experience.
Well, you think about those ghosts that you and I met at the bookstore when we were there with our friend Ken, and those ghosts who wanted to talk about the Black Hand of Canonsburg.
Yeah.
And that was, for anybody who hasn't watched that video, that was the Canonsburg Mafia many years ago. And those ghosts were insistent that they were involved with the mafia and they knew those things, which, if you believe what we saw that night, which I believe, we had some experiences that night that I cannot explain. But if you believe those were people like us who were just talking about their experiences when they were alive.
If you haven't seen that video, go see it. It's 3 most haunted locations in Pittsburgh. It's a fantastic video. Literally, we had a ghost hunter. Our friend Ken has hunted ghosts for many years now, has been a ghost and paranormal person that went to many of the places he talked about. You'll enjoy it. But again, that comes back to those ghosts in those buildings that he talks about were mostly Victorian or early 1940s ghosts.
And maybe we as a town here are just not old enough to have newer ghosts. Maybe we just don't have more modern ghosts. Maybe Canonsburg is just an old enough town that we just have a lot of Victorian ghosts.
I mean, Cary Steel Mill, of course, this was back in the 30s, 40s, 50s. But if you think about a steel mill, it's old school. Now, those weren't Victorians, but they were people that were not modern.
Well, and they were also not that far removed from the Victorian era. So you had guy in his 20s in the 40s who was working in the steel mill. He probably grew up with grandma or mom even, who told him those stories.
Nemacolin Castle?
Nemacolin Castle is about as Victorian as you can get. Ken tells the story in the one video about how he saw the apparition with the black veil on, which would have been Victorian mourning gear. So that's about as Victorian as you can get.
Not much more than that. And of course, with Conneaut, very similar.
And Conneaut started out in the 1900s, didn't it?
Yes.
So it would have been Victorians who were going to hang out at Conneaut Lake Park. And the hotel is actually, you've been to the hotel.
Yes.
I have never been to the hotel, but from what I have seen online, the hotel looks like in its glory days, it was a Victorian paradise.
Much that way. Victorian, everything. And it's a beautiful hotel. One of the more haunted locations, according to Ken.
Yep.
And just to let you know, we're going to be going back to finding the next 3 most haunted locations in the area. Ken's going to provide us with his next 3 on that list. Take a look out for that. If you hit the bell icon, that'll let you know when we release a video. So right now, if you got a minute, hit that bell icon, squash
that like button.
And squash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. This helps us out. And again, if you have any comments, leave it in the description box. We want to hear from you. Sue loves the comments. And she also wants to know what else you want us to talk about. Although this is a ghost story podcast, it was more specific. We're going to be looking into more ghosts. I think we're going to Greene County. Very haunted place.
Greene County is apparently one of the most haunted places in Pennsylvania. Now, I know there's a lot of other places in Pennsylvania that are haunted, not to take away from those places, but Greene County is a very old area and is very haunted. So a friend of mine connected me with some stories from that area, and we've talked to Ken about it. Ken is on board with it. So I think we're going to do a live ghost hunting event at one of the locations down there. And I think as we roll into 2026, I'll start putting together some stories that are Greene County specific, and we can tell those stories.
Now, Sue, I guess along with what we're talking about, Greene County, these haunted sites, sometimes you can feel, and I'm not saying you're a paranormal expert to do that. I'm saying just natural human feeling. You can feel when an area is off. Is that true?
I think so. I think that's definitely true. But speaking of feeling things, you remember my cold spot experience at the bookstore?
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yes, she had a cold spot experience, and somebody else had an experience with somebody tugging at their back of their hair.
Yeah.
Now, I know myself, and I may do a video on this channel, and so I haven't mentioned this to Sue yet, so you folks are the first to hear, nor have I said anything to Ashley, but I'm going to do a video on the 5 or 10 most creepy locations you can go to.
Okay.
And now I'm saying creepy because I think it's more than creepy.
Yeah.
Back roads.
Back roads are creepy.
I mean, and I think that's not every back road is that way. I go on a road and I drive a lot of places just to go. Hook up the Jeep right and I'm gone. I find places that you just look at and say, that's just like.
Do you know a very populated place that I found to be particularly creepy is Washington Hospital?
Yes.
It's an old hospital. It's in this area. If you were not in this area, I have only been in there once that I can clearly remember. And boy, that building, you can feel how old it is. And boy, that is a creepy place.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of places like that when you're driving over the interstate and you look down at an area.
Yeah.
An old area where they have warehouses.
Yep.
I think something congregates there. Some kind of energy and spirits maybe congregate in these places. For whatever reason, I get that feeling, and I've always felt that way because I've always gone to locations to film or do a video that are out of the way or just places that don't have a lot of people.
So do you think that's what it is? Do you think it's just the lack of population or the lack of buildup or something? Or what do you think it is that makes it, like, what identifies something from a place that you feel like it's truly haunted or it's just creepy?
I think both interact with each other. Personally, I do think that. And I think it's because when you're in a more confined area with people, your awareness is drawn away. It's a lot of busyness around you. So cities can be just as haunted as back roads, but I think when you're on those back roads or in those warehouses and there's no humans, I think you're more sensitive to what is there.
So in your opinion, what's the creepiest place in Canonsburg?
I think the creepiest place in Canonsburg, I'll be honest with, is the old Oak Spring Cemetery.
Oak Spring Cemetery is, yes, that's a creepy place. I used to walk my dog up there. And heck, we walked my dog up there.
Yeah, we did.
And but I have to say there's something about a particular stretch of West College Street.
Yes, we've talked about this. I think we were on a walk that day.
Yeah, there's a particular stretch of West College Street here in town that just gives me chills.
Very old homes.
Yeah.
Victorian homes, many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, and Sue mentioned this when we were on that walk. She goes, you can tell that there's something to this area, that there's something watching us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's more true than we know. I know when I worked at Sony Electronics, I worked there in a huge plant, old plant, 100-year-old plant, massive. And I'd walk in areas that just nobody's there. And you had this overwhelming feeling that there was something there, just wasn't human.
Yeah. And my house is one of the older ones in town too. And I get that same vibe in my house sometimes that something's watching me, something's standing behind me.
Well, Sue lives on a street that I grew up on, not maybe 4 or 5 houses up across the street. And that street had 3 funeral homes and 3 churches on it. So at any day when I got up, there could have been a hearse parked in front of my house.
I like to look out my windows every now and then and watch the casket company truck rolling down the street.
Right. Now, since then, one of those particular funeral homes has been closed, but there's still 2 that are open. Yep. One's an old Victorian mansion. And, of course, that's as creepy as you get.
I think my great-grandfather was laid out there.
much of my family was early on. So yeah, there's this whole thing about ghosts that I think we kind of don't have a total comprehension, and you don't really get any real knowledge from those people that go on those ghost hunts on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't trust any of them, and I think even Ken mentioned that
they exaggerate.
Yeah, because they need to make a film one a week, and they have not the time to stay there for a week or 2 weeks to get readings, because that's how long it takes sometimes.
So, and I can say I've always believed in ghosts, but in the experiences that I've had, just going out with Ken and the couple of times that I've gone out, I have experienced things that you can't explain. Some of these things, like I can't explain that cold spot. Like we had lights turning on. We caught voices in some of these situations that you can't explain some of these things. And so I think that the way to judge it is not through these television shows or these YouTubers who are going out looking for clicks. It's you really have to be in the moment and do one of these ghost adventures, so to say.
Right. So yeah, I think we got a lot of that coming up in 2026, especially kind of with this particular video. You got me really psyched up, Sue, to kind of investigate more. We are just about everywhere right now with our investigations. We are going back, just so everybody knows. I've been asked, when are we going back to Bigfoot? We are.
Maybe I've got another idea in mind for my next video, but I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can find us a good Bigfoot story to talk about for the next one.
UFOs, of course.
Mm-hmm. Now, we need more information on the Greene County UFO sighting. I need to do some more research on that, but
right, and I could not find a lot. Again, it depends on how much coverage it had. The one up in Westmoreland County.
Yeah, Kecksburg. We need to talk about Kecksburg. I've had a lot of people ask for Kecksburg, so we will talk about Kecksburg.
And what we hope to do, and Sue is really good at this, and so is Ashley, is to find a new angle. Everybody needs a new angle because it's been covered. You can go back and there's some of the same people that are on videos today for some YouTubers than there were when it first started. They're still alive. Nothing's really changed from what they've said, but sometimes it's good to get a feel directly from the source, being there, and we're going to have to go up there and take a gander at what really happened there. But UFOs are something that we haven't heard as much about recently. Do you have any reasons for that, Sue?
I think the aliens got sick of what they were seeing down here and said, we're out.
yeah. Peace out. We're gone.
We're good. Thanks.
Yeah.
We've seen everything that we needed to see.
Yeah. We've looked at 40,000 people and not one is smarter than the other. We're gone.
We're good. This is good. Yeah. There's still I read a bunch of books that still talk about the aliens, and I think maybe we've gotten away from UFOs and UFO abductions because we're focusing on maybe Bigfoot's an alien.
Right. Some people believe that.
Yeah.
I kind of think, and I'll run this by you, I kind of believe that, some of the old school UFO people, MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, a lot of these people are living on past stories. As they get older, they go back to past stories. I think this happens with a lot of these, some of the legends, some of the lore. The Scotland with dinosaur underwater.
Oh, the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, we need to talk about Nessie too.
And same thing, a lot of these people are the same people. They go back to them. There isn't a lot of new investigations. And if they are new, they're not good ones. And again, it focuses on what people told them 30, 40 years ago. Here on Nights, we want to get new perspectives because let's be honest, things aren't always what we believed they were back then. Things change, perspective changes, and you get a little different viewpoint. And sometimes we're going to be maybe far from what people have believed 50, 60 years ago, 100 years ago.
Like with our Lake Lanier video, I think we're the only video on YouTube that does not think that there is something crazy going on in Lake Lanier. Right.
Watch that video, by the way. It is a cursed lake, so they say. And as I always tell you,
always a cursed lake.
Sue was in the lake. We're here to investigate. We're here to discuss the topics, and we want you to be involved. That's why there's a comment section. Put your comment in. Let us know. Start a conversation. Get us the urge to go and do something different. If you have something you want to find out, something we've never heard of, we'll take a look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, and we did get some requests for some things that we haven't heard of, so I need to sit down and research some more of those. But we'll get around to it. If we haven't hit it yet, we'll get around to it. So just stick with us, and we'll hit it for you.
And just an FYI, Ashley is still here. She's been off for a while, but she will be back again. She's working on a video, The Dangers of AI, Artificial Intelligence. That's a relevant topic. So Ashley tends to get into more of the technology stuff than we get in more of the folklore and legend sometimes. And it's interesting. It's a good dichotomy. The NASA connection. No one talks really about space that much anymore because what you hear is from private space people like Elon Musk shooting rockets in. We're going to Mars, and nobody really is thrilled about it. I don't think anybody cares.
I don't know that anybody cares anymore. I think it was such a big thing in the 60s. And now everybody, I don't know that there's anybody who truly cares anymore.
Do you think it's because of all the movies have just like worn out its welcome?
Yeah, that's probably a part of it. They're not even making as many like alien invasion movies as they used to.
No, well, there's one on Disney which is very good, Invasion.
I have not seen that.
It's a series. By the way, I'll recommend on Disney, Invasion. It's a really up-to-date, very good movie. Different take. Yes, there is an invasion. But as Sue said, there's not a lot. Not like there was in the 50s, 60s, and even early 70s with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Predator coming down. Then you had the one with Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, Alien, yeah.
Aliens
like 1 through 7 or whatever.
Yeah, and it wears out its welcome, and there isn't as much to replace it.
Well, so just think about, and this is a topic for another video, is think about like what the bad guys in the 60s were, the aliens. And the aliens, you had to save yourselves from the aliens, protect yourselves, like we talked about in our UFO video.
Yeah.
And so now, like, we got a different fear. So they're making different videos about different fears.
Yeah, it's more along the lines of, I don't even say Bigfoot. You don't even see many Bigfoot movies.
There are not many good Bigfoot movies out there. There are some, but there are not many.
Not many. And of course, people have had fascinations with basically the ranch out in Arizona.
Oh, yeah, Skinwalker Ranch. That's actually, I feel like Skinwalkers and Wendigo are becoming a much bigger thing in movies than they used to be.
And I don't know why that is. Of course, if you've watched any of the videos, films, or the series on Skinwalker Ranch, there's a heavy investigation still going on there with a lot of big names. And what's coming out of there is, there's some really, really strange stuff. And we don't really understand it all, but we know that they're going to continue. And we know that they've had scientific findings of basically paranormal things that can't be explained. And I don't know why you don't hear much more about it on movies or TV. Everything seems to have been scrubbed now.
There's a lot of YouTube. It's a big thing on YouTube. There's a lot of YouTubers talking about it. So
right. And if you're not on that channel, though.
Yeah, it can pop up for you.
Yeah, now YouTube's probably where it all is now, right?
I think that's also a shift, is that if you want to hear a ghost story of any type, you can come to YouTube and somebody's telling that story, like us.
Now the question is how much of that you can trust. Now I'm going to tell you, you can trust us because flat out we put our money where our mouth is. We're not going to just buy the line.
No, we're going to dig into it.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know Sue was excited to do it. She's going to come up with another one here real soon.
I got an interesting one for us coming up.
So I'll be aware of that. Remember, if you enjoy this content, watch it, like it, squash it,
that like button,
share it, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, because that'll get you notified when we've released the video. And we want you to know right away so that you can get on there and watch it, because we know you want to hear it and see it. So remember, Nights Around the Fire. We'll be back, I think, next week. We're going to start providing you with more content, and there's more to come. So enjoy your New Year. Are we going to do this before New Year's?
Maybe we'll get this one out before New Year's.
So no guarantees here, but we could get a video out before New Year. Keep your eyes out. Listen to that bell when it rings. Go watch our video. And thanks for watching your favorite place for legends, mysteries, and myths, Nights Around a Fire. We'll see you.
Bye, guys.
We'll see you.